Good morning. Still a little cold this morning because I woke up really early. Thought I'd just read to you guys. Something caught her hand as she swam, and she recoiled from the touch. It was cloth. It blew up the pants again. In the dim light, she could see that the scuffle on the raft had reached a nervous equilibrium. Still overloaded, the raft was almost completely submerged under the weight, and it swayed precariously. There were still people hanging on to it in the water, but they weren't fighting. They were lined up tightly around it, stomachs to backs or face to face, each with only one hand holding rope on the side. Some other men, better swimmers, were treading water near the raft. She envied the people holding the side of the raft. She had not stopped swimming or treading water for hours, and she was tired. But she was grateful to have her leggings float back. She swam closer to the raft, then in a wide circle around it until she could make out the familiar shapes of Catherine and Richard among the others. I'm here, she called. Richard was in the water, holding the side of the raft as she approached. Hi, Emily said weakly. Hello, dear. Richard said warmly. Then to Catherine, look, love, she's fine. She's a born survivor, I told you. He looked back at Emily. The unseekable Emily Slake. She's tough, she is. Emily's eyes brimmed with hot tears. She swallowed hard. No, I'm not, she said quietly. I'm so tired. People are dying all around us. She thought of the desperate woman, but she couldn't talk about it. She couldn't spare any more of her energy for that woman now. Why aren't the rescue boats here? She cringed at how whiny her voice sounded. Here, take a turn holding the side, and I'll have a turn swimming, Richard said. We can switch off for as long as it takes. He put out his hand, and she reached for it. Then he pulled her in, and they changed places. Emily heard someone near her growl almost imperceptibly. She shivered. Emily held the rope of the raft with her right hand and kept her leggings inflated in her left. In that way, without having to kick her legs at all, she stayed afloat with blissfully little effort. Her heart rate slowed and her breathing became regular. If the world could stay just like this for just long enough, she thought, she would survive to be rescued. If this were America, there would be 100 helicopters zooming overhead, Emily said to Richard softly in case the people around her spoke English. Yeah, television crews, Richard boomed. Emily and Catherine laughed, a bursting laugh, a release of nervousness and hopelessness and frustration. Then they were quiet. The people around them spoke in low tones, but much of the time everyone was quiet. Emily had heard that in World War II, the survivors in British air raid shelters were often silent while the bombs were blasting above them. You might expect them to scream or cry, but in fact, people were often quiet, just waiting, even children, knowing there was absolutely nothing more they could do. This is how they all felt now, Emily thought. She and Catherine and Richard and the other raft dwellers. Not numb from cold, because it was warm enough, but numb from waiting and accepting whatever the sea had to offer. Gosh, I'm hungry, Catherine said quietly. Can you hear my stomach? Emily lifted her left arm to peer at her watch. For the first time since she'd been on the boat, she could see the time in the moonlight. It was 10:40. We missed supper, Richard agreed. I missed lunch, Emily said. Oh no, how did that happen? Catherine said. A little wave of panic overtook Emily. The truth was that she hadn't had enough money to buy lunch and a ferry pass because she had run away. Should she lie or be honest? In a fraction of a second, the choice became clear to her. I'd better tell you both the truth, Emily said, in case I don't get home for some reason. Her throat became tight. Don't be silly, dear, Catherine interrupted. You'll make it all right, Richard said. We'll see to that. If only they could make that promise, Emily thought. Now, what's so important for us to know? Catherine asked softly. We'll leave you there until next week. Remember, you're going to have regular classes next week. That should be fun.